Welcome to the Unlocking Unlimited Potential Stories show. I'm so excited to be here live and in person with you all. I have my first guest here at the DLNY 2025 conference. I have my friend here, Rob Mahoney. He is going to tell us a little bit about himself. Rob, how are you? Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. My name is Rob Mahoney. I'm the CEO and founder of TVTP Solutions, and that stands for Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Solutions. What our objective is that we believe that through evidence-based, proven strategies, we can actually prevent targeted violence from happening at schools, and we can take a proactive approach towards prevention of these types of things rather than sort of being reactive. So I work a lot with school districts, local municipalities, law enforcement, mental health agencies, as well as some social groups and things like that, all across the East Coast. And very happy to be here.
Awesome. Love it. And, part of the most important thing about this podcast is the story behind how you got into such a career. Talking about violence and terrorism prevention is obviously not an easy topic to talk about. So, just curious, tell us a little bit about how your journey allowed you to step into this leadership fire that you have now put yourself into, becoming your own person out on the road doing your own thing. Talk a little bit about how you got to this part of your journey.
Sort of by accident, but not really when you sort of take a 30,000 foot view of it. I was really inspired. I was in college or just out of college when Katrina happened. And I went and got a master's degree in public administration and emergency management. And that brought me to sort of that coordination type of leader of bringing different sort of sectors together and getting them to achieve sort of like an ultimate goal to help people and things like that. And as my career sort of progressed, this opportunity sort of became a little bit of a gap. I saw that most people thought that they were doing prevention when in actuality they were doing more protection or preparedness. And certainly with the rise of school shootings and more violence, I felt that there was a niche here and that more people wanted to be more proactive than reactive. And so I took the leap, started my own company, and here I am now.
I love that. And hearing your journey into such a challenging topic and such a topic that really is current and really a topic that is not something everybody likes to talk about. What are some of the things that your organization brings to the table when working with schools and school districts with dealing with violence and terrorism prevention, which is such a hot, very challenging topic to really talk about with families and talk about with students?
Well, it really starts with understanding human behavior. So, as scary as the name sounds, we are really dealing with human beings here. And so, understanding how people become radicalized, how people sort of go down that pathway of violence and feel that violence is some way of a way out, and understanding that to the audience is actually very enlightening because it shows, oh, okay, it isn't just one message that they're attaching to, or it's not just some sort of ideology or something like that. There's a lot more complexity to it. And a lot of the solutions to that, because we're dealing with humans that are often not very rational, and you're dealing with sort of the outliers in society, in order to create different strategies to get them sort of off ramped and to find something that is more productive for their time and to help everybody.
I love that. I think it is something that is a unique conversation and a unique thing that happens situation by situation. There's no real like model that you're going to be able to hand somebody that's going to work every time. And I think that's what's really important when you're dealing with situations like you are experiencing and you're talking about in schools, which are often considered hot button issues or topics that sometimes we're a little bit nervous to have. And I think that's important for you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you'll notice is that a lot of if you do a lot of research on those individuals that have committed these acts of violence, is that there's a very similar character arc to all these individuals. There's a It's sprinkled with a lot of one-off incidences that on their own don't seem very important. But when you go back and you're like, oh, there was a point, and that's what kind of contributed to everything. And we had this opportunity here to intervene, and we didn't. We had this opportunity to intervene. Two-thirds of all attacks, people that commit attacks, they've elicited concern in others too. So we're dealing with more than almost around 70% of the people know this individual is having an issue. We see them on different lists, whether it be on law enforcement or they've tried to get some mental health. They've had behavioral issues at school for a long, long time, and it's not necessarily a reporting issue as much as it's a coordination issue. A lot of these different systems that we have in place, they're kind of stovepiped and they're very linear. And so the idea that I sort of bring with TVTP is instead of having a system of care, we want to create a concept of care where all those different services wrap around that individual and try to get them the help that they desperately need.
So it's putting together all the different parts of the school, the community, the resources, the parents, the students, the
All of
teachers.
it.
It is a 100% team effort. And your opportunity to go in there and come with that mission is something that I think is really inspiring.
Yeah, and for schools, a lot of they they think that they have to create something new for this, and what a lot of what I see is a lot of the framework is already there at the school, and they just don't call it prevention. They call it mentoring or they call it something else, right? They have a different activity or MTSS or all those sort of building blocks is already there. So a lot of what I do is almost just give them the green light to do the things that they're already doing. So it's just shifting the context a little bit of what security is, what prevention is. And we really do believe that this is something that we can really, combat and actually do prevent these things from actually happening.
I think when you really take away those distractions, those challenges, those insecurities and fear, that's when real learning can happen. And I think that's what's critical about what's the bigger purpose behind your work. And I think that's really awesome is that you're really helping making the school a safer place so that kids can get to doing what they're supposed to be doing in school.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that is really a mission. I work with educators and I have to remind myself all the time that, they're not security professionals. This is not their forte. Their forte is connecting with students, connecting with kids, giving them that sense of identity, sense of community, purpose, value, all those things that when you go back and you sort of research those individuals that have committed those crimes, those are sort of like the four pillars that sort of went out of whack or went awry. And teachers are really good. You probably spend a lot of time with teachers. They're a coach to somebody else. They're a surrogate father or mother to someone else. They're wearing six different hats all at once and on top of their teaching. And I'm just telling them, yeah, keep doing that. I know it's difficult because, back of the napkin math, you've got a 40-minute class, you've got 30 kids in the class, um, and they're constantly shuffling. That's about a little over a minute of individualized attention for a kid, 5 to 6 minutes a week. You're not going to really be able to get that full connection. But instead of trying to look for risk factors or things like that, I teach people the behavioral indicators that are far more predictive and things like that. And so teachers can sort of feel and see different things. Students can feel and see different things. And it's being able to have a process and a strategy around how that information is communicated, and then sort of how we go about doing the interventions and how we go about caring for it. And the earlier we can get in that process, the better off we are. Because most of the times I see schools have a plan, but it's usually a threshold, like a threshold has been crossed, and therefore now that we're in reaction mode. Um, that window on the pathway of violence between, you know, broadcasting and planning and actual, uh, doing an attack is very, very small. But you have almost months to sometimes years of backstory that you could intervene at that point. So trying to thread that needle on a response thing is very, very difficult. And if you look at it from more of a prevention lens and going very, what we call in the industry, sort of left of boom, the farther left you can get, the better off you are.
I think that's so important. And obviously, you have had the opportunity to work with many different schools and organizations across the country. What's one piece of wisdom that you can share from your experience?
One share of wisdom, I think, it'd probably be a little bit cautionary tale. In terms of response, it sounds a little uh, reversed, but you are going to be limited by your imagination. You are not going to be able to prepare yourself for every threat. And so trying to establish protection measures and response measures based on your own imagination of what you think could happen, um, is going to be a very difficult thing to do. And it's a lot easier to try and get your intervention done or create a culture where those senses of value, community, purpose, identity are fostered within the school so that those individuals don't sort of stray that much into that sort of radicalization path. So that would be sort of my wisdom to anybody listening. Um, is to you are going to definitely be limited by your imagination, but in the prevention sense, you could do things. Your imagination could run wild too. So it's kind of a both sides of the coin on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's all about making school a safer place for not only students, but also our educators in the building, because that's what is most paramount. And I think that is what is incredibly important. And we've been talking about this the whole time. And the one thing I like to have everybody do at the end is just give me their finish to this sentence: unlocking unlimited potential needs.
Being true to yourself, understanding that you have a value in this world and that you are going to be able to contribute something and have value. And so many of the individuals that do these attacks feel that they have no more value, and that's a terrible thing. And so that would be that's how I've finished that.
I love that. Rob, I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you, and all of our listeners can see how to contact Rob in the show notes to learn more about TVTP solutions targeting violence and terrorism prevention. He's doing incredible work to help educators continue to do what's most important is their job, to teach and to help support students in their journey towards unlocking unlimited potential. Thank you so much, Rob. Have an amazing day, everybody.